SABC, the Young Talent of Today, and we're going to be showcasing a lot of young talent through the program, and here's one for you. The book Blossoms of Scarlet is an exciting love story from a new voice in teenage fiction. This fantasy is packed with action and emotion and will transport its readers on a dramatic trip into another world. The book is written by Kiara Soobrayan, who joins us in studio now to talk more about this. Good to have you, Kiara. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you. So nice to be here.
All right. So you're 17 years old now, but you wrote this book when you were 15 years old.
Yes, that's correct.
So I mean, just tell us about this. I mean, 15 years old. Not many people at your age are writing books.
Well, I guess I just wanted to write because I didn't have a lot of friends at that time,
Okay.
and I wanted to make my own friends.
Yeah.
So I made my own friends,
Yeah.
and I like them very much. They play with me every single day, all the time.
Oh, fantastic. So you put them down, and that's how it all started. It was just this fantasy world that you were imagining and loving, and then you sort of
started
decided
writing.
to write
I actually started during exam time, which is slightly unusual,
Yeah,
but I
probably the
started
wrong
then. I would take little breaks between studying, and I would just go and write. And I woke up one day and I had like 100 pages written, and I hadn't really even thought about it.
Yeah.
And it kind of just went on from there. I never intended to publish it. I just intended to write it.
You just intended to write
Yeah.
it and keep it for your own sort of records, and then
Basically, yeah.
And then it was published earlier this year.
Yes.
Tell me how did that process go about? What made you? What changed? I mean, did somebody read it and say, Kiara, we've got to publish this. This is worth publishing.
Well, I actually told my mother the story. I didn't let my parents read it, for one. I never let them read it.
Yeah.
But I told her the story, and she said, you know what, we should actually look at getting this published. And there's a kind of a clause where you can't get a literary agent unless you've been published, and you can't be published unless you have a literary agent. So we had to work around that a lot, and eventually I got a literary agent, and they sent it to Macmillan Longman,
Yeah.
who decided that they wanted to publish it. And about a year and a half later, it got published. It takes a while to...
And how is it doing? Have people taken to it? What's
yes,
the response
actually,
been?
the response has been really, really good.
Yeah.
I had 2 launches, one in Pretoria and one in Durban,
Yeah.
and I've signed, I can't even begin to count how many books. My hands were cramping.
That's good
yeah.
to hear.
Yeah.
Those are good cramps to have. And what's the feedback been from because I mean, this is obviously aimed at a teenager,
Yes.
more than an adult per se. But then again, us adults, we like to never grow up, so it could be for us as well. But what has the response been from the teenagers? Have they taken to this world that you've created around this fictional character called Orenda?
They have, and they picked up really nicely on what I was actually trying to say behind everything, because I was sort of trying to put in a message about women's strength and how women need to now take on a new role in society and take up the reins from what had previously been a man's job. And the few adults who have actually read it picked up on that very nicely as well.
Yeah.
And I was asked a lot of questions about women's rights when I did my interviews a while ago, and everyone who's read it actually picks up on that very nicely, and that makes me really happy.
Tell me about this character.
Well, Carolina, she's the main character, and I actually modeled her off who I want to be when I grow up.
Okay.
And she just takes on the throne in her new country, and she sort of has to overcome all these challenges, these what people like to call feminine disabilities, where you fall in love and you become weak, and she's not one of those people. She says in outright, I'm not going to fall in love, I'm not going to become weak, I'm not going to do all of those things. I'm going to rule first. But then, of course, she falls in love, and she has to find a way to rule her country as any monarch would, and still be a woman on the side.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You're living in Washington at the moment.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you enjoying it there?
It's very, very cold. It's very cold.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So because your mother actually works for the World Bank.
My mother works for the World Bank,
So
yes.
you moved there. Now, my question to you is, are you going to continue this? I mean, you've published one book, and you were telling me off air you've already started writing your next book.
Yes, I have. And I've actually expanded on one of the characters in this book. I don't want to say who it is yet, but she's going to be getting her own book now, her new one. Yeah.
Wow. So this could be a trilogy, if not more.
Yeah, but I don't want them to... I want you to be able to read each one independent of the other. So you can read this one and read the next one, and then you'll be able to put them together.
Yeah.
But if you read this one and don't read the next one, it won't really make a difference. Yeah.
Well, listen, it's in bookstores around the country now. Blossoms of Scarlet, Kiara Soobrayan, our guest here on Morning Live. 15 years old when she wrote it. It was published earlier this year. It's obviously in all bookstores nationwide.
Yes.
Okay, good. I see that the price is 157 Rand. Wonderful Christmas present for kids. Teenagers, perhaps you want to read this yourself. Maybe there's some lessons to be learned. Well done to you.
Thank
15
you.
years old and published, that's a very huge accolade for you. So thank you for joining us, Karen. Enjoy
It's
your
my
holiday
pleasure.
here in
Thank
South
you.
Africa.
You too.
All right. Okay, it's 5 minutes before 7 here on Morning Live. Let's get you the weather. Here's